What's going on? It's Justeeni here. Today, I'm going to be showing you some nice tips and tricks with Illyrion, how to defend against hexspot spam, how to defend against Doomlook spam, and how to set up your late game even when you're down in cities. So let's just get right into things. So, starting off, we've got a nice double Polytar opening, and instead of getting forestry, normally 90% of the time I'd recommend getting forestry, but there are some exceptions, and this is one of them. I'm going to get organization here, and the reason why is two things. First off, I have a good amount of fruits. And second off, I'm close to the lighthouse. You see that right now I have 3-star per turn, not enough to actually upgrade anything. But if I use the lighthouse, I can upgrade my capital. And my eco's actually pretty solidly set up. And you can see my third city also has some good fruit. Able to develop eco pretty nicely, 7-star per turn on turn 4, not bad. Get a veteran sword, which isn't ideal from the ruins, but it's workable. I get forestry pre-cap so I can get my sanctuaries set up. And then now I can get my first explorer to kind of see what's going on the west side of the map. See, there's a lot of land actually. Just barely missed the lighthouse though. Set up my sanctuary. Now right here, here's like the first little cool trick. So you see this Polytar right here on this animal. I can actually capture this ruins this turn by pushing it and getting the ruins. And I get a really nice ruins too, math ruins. Really amazing here. You're gonna see, I'm gonna kind of use both sanctuaries and sawmills here just because like I got math from the ruins. If you don't get math from the ruins, I would usually just only use sanctuaries. They're usually just better, but hey, I got it from ruins, so why not? And yeah, you'll kind of see that. I'm setting up border growth, so then I have plenty of room for my sawmill and sanctuary. Then next turn, my eco's doing quite well. Just developing some more cities, setting up some more sawmills. My sanctuaries are doing pretty well. And then I'm also able to get a dragon this turn. And I'm actually sitting nice and pretty at 19-star per turn, setting up another border growth too, so I've got a lot of port space. And now I meet the opponent. So you can kind of see they've got fight shield already, they've got hexapods, and they're also standing on the ruins, which I can luckily take. But yeah, I'm gonna need to get fishing to get some scouts to deal with that. So get that fishing, get that going. And yeah, they actually take the ruins away from me. Unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. But I can start to get some scouts. Unfortunately, I do make a mistake here. See where I move that scout? It's no good there. Because the problem is, it's poison, and it's just gonna give them a free algae. If I either just kept the scout on the port or just moved it somewhere else where I don't care about them getting algae, would have been fine, but I'm just giving them free population and just kind of free reign to now be able to control my port very easily because they'll just have an algae right there. They can just throw hexapods or centipedes near my port and I can't really make any more scouts. So pretty big mistake on my part. So whenever you're playing against Semi-Anti, always be mindful of like poison. You don't want to like throw poison units in their territory or units that can easily get poison in their territory because then you're just giving them free resources to work with, like what I did here. So regardless though, developing my economy. And yeah, you see they just get that free algae. They're poisoning that scout. And yeah, right now, just kind of spamming some units. The reason why I'm actually making Polytars from the Sanctuary, I rarely recommend doing this, but because I have a really good eco already, I just need to get more unit spam going, and it is pretty good to just take advantage of the Sanctuary to kind of train more units than you would normally be able to, especially like since training from my other cities aren't going to reach the western side of the map as easily. This is a kind of good way to make up for it. So yeah, and then just making some more units, getting things going. And yeah, now I get farming as well, which might be a mistake. The reason why I do is just to get my eco up. But another thing I could be considering is to go for riding, to train some riders, because riders are going to be very good against hexapods. And you're about to see in a second, they've got quite a few hexapods. Quite a few. And they're going to have even more. So, we've got dragon there, get another scout, try and pick away at those hexapods. Training some more units. Unit spam is a really good way to deal with hexapods. And yeah, you can also see where their shaman is, because they just boosted it. So that means the western flank is going to be very strong. On the east, though, they're not going to be very dangerous at all. So I don't need to train many units there. I just have to worry about the west, train as many units as I can there to deal with their boosted hexapods. And that's kind of the best way to deal with things. I shouldn't like overtrain in the east, because there's just not going to be much going on. All the action is going to happen on one side of the map. That's how games against Sciminti tend to go. A lot of action on one side of the map. And yeah, my goal right now is just to stop them from getting the village, which right now I'm able to do that just fine. And yeah, just keeping unit spam up. I get riding. I'm able to get another egg. And even some more riders. And they're continuing to pressure. More boosted hexapods. They're really taking out my units, but I'm kind of like able to trade into them at least. Now at this point, I've got this dragon that's just about to become a fully grown dragon. But this was a live game, and we were both under a lot of time pressure, and in that time pressure, I make a fatal misclick. My dragon that was just about to grow up, I throw right where it can just easily get taken out by hexapods, which really sucks, because that would have been very useful. But yeah, I do get roads though. You know, the game's not over, at least, even with that pretty big mistake. Using roads to just kind of reach towards those hexapods, but yeah. There goes my dragon. It's gone. And they get some algae out of it too, as insult to injury. And they have a lot of hexapods, but I am keeping them off that village. Those hexapods, they may be strong, but they are flimsy. They can't hold a siege, even if their life depended on it. But yeah, as long as I can just keep unit spam, just having some units alive, they can't get that village. I get ramming here, which is a pretty big mistake. It's just not worth the investment. It's better to just, I don't know, get nothing and save the stars for later. But yeah, another mistake on my part. Again, it was a live game. We both make a lot of mistakes, so kind of see that. But it's important to learn from those mistakes, right? So yeah, they take out my rammer with ease. They're sending even more hexapods. And then they get a border growth. They're ready to get a centipede as well. And if they get a centipede to support these hexapods, that is when I am in some deep trouble. Because while the hexapods can't really hold a village down, a centipede absolutely can. Centipede with a segment on top of that, I'm in for a world of hurt. And that's when things are going to be hard to contain. But for now, unit spam is taking care of the hexapods just fine. So I'm just spamming more polytars, more riders, more warriors, all sorts of cheap units. I don't want to make anything expensive because it's just going to trade just the same into hexapods. And yeah, they're trying to send their centipede in the east, but it's not very well supported. It's not going to get very far. They're really just hammering down on the west, though. Goodness gracious, look at all those hexapods. It is ridiculous. And they get that centipede that I was worried about. And yeah, I'm just trying to spam units, just trying to hold on, make sure they can't get that village. And yeah, I'm barely hanging on. And you can see here, I'm not able to take out the segment, so what I do instead for the centipede in the east is I just smack it. And this is what I like to call doling. I'm doling the head of the centipede. So it's not going to deal as much damage. It's not going to be as threatening. So they have to explode their segment now if they actually want to kill my rammer, which that's exactly what they do, but now they're down a segment. They get it back, but yeah, not very helpful for them, again, because I doled that centipede head. And yeah, unfortunately, though, the centipede on the west is a huge problem because it is very well supported with boosted hexapods. But yeah, I'm able to take out the east centipede just fine, but the west is a whole nother issue. Again, the best I can do is just delay, stop them from getting the village at this turn, dole the head of the centipede a little bit, get trade, get my eco up. This is kind of how I'm setting up my late game economy. I'm already done in villages, and I expect it to stay that way for a while. So the best way to do that, get trade, get markets, get your eco up. Then you can start to get like some knights and some other stuff, some more super units maybe even, and maybe even like some swords, who knows. But you need some eco to really be able to afford all that. You're not getting money out of thin air. unless you get markets, of course. But yeah, I need that eco because I just don't have the city count. And yeah, they're really pressuring on the west. And you see, they've got a really dangerous centipede, and in a few turns' time, they are going to be able to take that village. And you can see, I'm just trying to dull the head of that segment, except actually this, I kill it. The reason why I kill it is because it's got 2 segments right now. If it gets to 3, that's usually the point of no return, or it's starting to get out of control. And like, unless you have a knight and they have like the tail of their centipede perfectly exposed, you can take care of it. But like, if they don't, which is like the majority of cases, it starts to get really bad when they get 3 segments. So it's usually bad to target the head of the centipede, but in this case, I don't have much of a choice. So I'm just gonna reduce their segment count to 1, just to really delay things, give myself some time to work with building up my markets. I'm getting climbing to kind of more easily traverse the pathway in the west to get more units through. But then here's where the opponent actually makes a pretty big mistake. They stretch themselves a little too thin. They are getting their eco up. It looks very scary. They've got a ton of hexapods. They are getting that village, no problem. Hexapods everywhere. But if we pause here, you can even pause the video too. What do you think I do at this point to salvage things? All right, so assuming you've paused the video, you've looked at things, let's see what happens. So there goes their shaman, and there goes their army. And yeah, I'm just gonna, now suddenly I have quite the unit advantage, and their shaman is gone, so they may be able to take that village in the west, but they're not going to keep it. Although they're back for round 2. They've got some Dumuks, so they're not going down without a fight. Not at all. But Dumuks are a huge mistake here. If you want to know what you should be doing here, stick around to the end. I'll kind of give some tips for what Segmenti should have done instead of Dumuks, but I will tell you, Dumuks are not the way to go, and I'll show you why. So first off, I'm going to be able to take that western city by just blocking it with some units. Dumuks do not have sneak, so it's actually pretty easy to just block with stuff. But then to actually defend, because they have some avenues of attacking in the east. And the way that I'm going to defend that, first off, I get nice cheeky archery for that defense bonus. But also, I've got a lot of cheap units. Because the thing is with Dumuks, they have a lot of attack and a lot of movement. They're going to have no trouble getting to a unit and smacking it for a ton of damage, probably just killing it outright. But if they're only killing a 2-star or a 3-star unit, that's not a big deal for you. And they just threw a 10-star unit straight into your territory. Dumuks don't have very much defense. They are not killing anything on the retaliation. So they essentially just traded like 2 or 3 stars for 10 stars. And they're going to do that every single time they throw a Dumuks in your territory. The only way that Dumuks get value is if they are outright taking a city, which you need really overwhelming numbers for. Which, that's the opponent's game plan here, is to just get so many Dumuks, but if you don't take a city, it's not sustainable. And that's what's going to happen here. Spoiler alert. But you'll kind of see a lot of unit spam. They even chop the force in the west. Very smart play to make sure I can't take advantage of those. But yeah, I get strategy, nice and cheap defenders, only 3 stars, and they can tank a Dumuks hit. So it's going to really help me hold the line. So I'm able to train some defenders, train some archers. I'm fine with the Dumuks just like killing riders and warriors because they're cheap, they're expendable. The Dumuks are not cheap or expendable, but the opponent's going to treat them like fodder. And yeah, I'm just making some polytars as well, just tons of cheap units. And they're going to be able to get a siege, but it's an expensive siege. They sacrificed a Hexbot and a Dumuks. They're going in on the west, but for what? They just sent like 50 stars at me, and I'm going to have no problem defending. So again, just going to unsiege nice and easily. Going to build up some more units for defense. Take out that Dumuks in the center. And then in the west, I've got 2 dragons. Should have no issue dealing with the Dumux there. So things are pretty much taken care of. They're trying to go in with the centipede too, which is a pretty big mistake. It's not going anywhere. The dragons are way too strong in defense. But yeah, they're trying to go in. They're trying to be really aggressive, trying to just throw everything they can. They've got 3 Dumux, a bunch of Hexapods, trying to get centipedes in, all this stuff. But if I can just hang on, then all of that is for nothing. And on the west, I've pretty much completely stabilized. It's just a matter of defending the east. I've got a nice knight for support as well, which you'll kind of see come in handy, because I'm able to get a little bit of extra value. Usually knights are only okay against Dumux, but if you can chain, it's a nice way to just get some extra damage for very little unit space, which I do need here. And yeah, they are just like absolutely rampaging through on the west. But if I can hang on to my city there, that eastern city, then I'm sitting pretty. I just need to somehow unsiege here, which it looks really bad, but I'm hanging on just barely, but barely is enough. I got to make some fancy road plays, but I unsiege, and I do make a little bit of a mistake here. I train a knight on my capital. They can't actually reach it with their centipede. If they destroy their segment, they can actually reach my capital. So if I just trained like a warrior or something, or nothing at all, that would have been a little better. Or like made some polytars to anticipate the siege. Little mistake on my part, but the opponent also misses it. Again, live games be like that. Both players make a lot of mistakes. But yeah, they're again trying to break through, but this is where things really go wrong for them. They try this one last attempt to really pressure, but they leave themselves open and exposed for really nasty chain. And now their attack on the east is completely gone. There's nothing going for them on the west, and they have just invested hundreds of stars into nothing. Just because I was using a bunch of cheap units to defend, so it was super cheap for me to defend, super duper expensive for them to attack. I even trained a catapult just to stabilize things further. And from this point, the opponent knows there's no way they are breaking through, so they don't bother to attack anymore. Instead, they try to develop their own eco, and now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do a little bit of remodeling even to further enhance my economy, get some more markets, get some better sanctuary spots, really set up my late game situation, because while I am down in cities, I am able to like set myself up pretty well, getting quite a lot of economy with just 5 cities. The power of Valyria on late game right here. And I'm even able to snag the city because they were playing a little too passive. Now, they can't actually do much about that, but they're just going to set up their own eco, but it is taking a while. I get philosophy for a couple of reasons. First off, if we look at our tech tree, I want a lot of tech still. I have a lot, but I want even more. I want to get spiritualism, aquatism, navigation, smithery, diplomacy, and probably just to finish off the tech tree, I may as well get construction anyway because I get to monument. I want a lot of techs. Philosophy makes sense. It makes my techs cheaper. And also, mindbenders are actually really nice against Saimanti because a big weakness of mindbenders is knights. And guess what? Saimanti does not have knights. So I'm even going to make some mindbenders too, because they're going to be super annoying for Saimanti to deal with. But first I'm going to get one last explorer, get some more intel on Saimanti. You can see they have quite a lot of territory, lots of cities, but somehow this position looks pretty good for me. I'm starting to advance a little bit because I've really finished most of my setup. And yeah, they're just trying to like play really greedy so they can develop. And I get spiritualism to just further set things up. My economy is through the roof. And I'm even able to land a nice cheeky siege with a defender. Nice cheap unit. I know they can unsiege, but it's denying a lot of income for them. And so yeah, at this point, like they can keep developing their eco. They are still able to be ahead in eco because they just have that many more cities, but it is going to be tough to handle in a Lyrian late game. And you'll kind of see why. My ultimate end goal here, after I just get some nice value, is I'm going to get diplomacy, going to get some intel on their capital, and cloaks are going to be kind of my late game win condition because, again, Saimanti doesn't have knights. They can't chain through the cloaks. So each cloak that I send, that's 5 units that they have to kill. That's pretty difficult for them to deal with. Plus, I've got dragons. Plus, I can make polytars. Those have independence, so those don't count towards the unit cap. And I can just further pressure on top of that with all sorts of other stuff, like some swords, some knights, who knows. So I've got a lot of avenues of attack despite my city disadvantage, and if the opponent had more time to set up, they could set up like a spiritualism wall, get some shamans, some exita, and actually get a good defense going, but because they spent all those stars on Dumux, they're actually going to have quite a tough time, and you'll even see the opponent does resign in just a bit, possibly because it was like a live game and it had been going on for a while, but also it is a pretty tough position for Saimanti to play at this point, despite their city advantage. So you kind of see they play things out a little bit, snagging some more border growths for their Clatherus. And yeah, at this point they resign, I win. But if we kind of look at the Saimanti point of view, again, they have a lot of cities, and they definitely should have won. They were in a better position for most of the game, and their spawn was absolutely ridiculous too. They had a 4 Fungi spawn. But where did they go wrong? Where they went wrong is, of course, with the Dumux. That was probably the big thing. And what they should have done is gone for strategy and diplomacy. Because Kitons are amazing support for both Hexapods and Centipedes. They are a perfect mid-game unit for Saimanti. Probably one of the best things that I rarely see Saimanti players actually get for some reason. And then the other thing, Cloaks are basically just a better Dumux. They're easier to get because instead of buying a completely useless tech, you actually get a really useful tech beforehand. And also Cloaks are cheaper, they are more efficient, they're harder to counter, and they're just simply better. They're way better at attacking than Dumux are. You're not going to run yourself thin on stars. In fact, the opponent is going to be the one struggling on stars if you keep infiltrating them and stealing their stars. You can also use swords as well to support. They're Dumux, but for half the price. And yeah, basically don't use Dumux. Saimanti has a lot better of options. Also, like if you are at a city advantage, it is good to consolidate a bit. Trade is pretty good, especially if like they had a lot of water to work with. So Clathers were good to set up. They should have just done it a lot earlier. And like if you've got tons of money to spare, then maybe go Dumux. But if you don't have like all the money in the world, don't go Dumux, just get Cloaks, get Kitons, get those really good mid-game and end-game finishers set up, and then you won't lose to some really cheap riders and defenders and stuff. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful. Like and sub, and have a good one.